Alright, today we're going to go over the basics on how to do a clutch up wheelie as opposed to a power wheelie. A power wheelie is pretty much induced by the throttle opening up. You know, if you give the bike enough gas and it has enough power, it'll bring the front wheel up. But an easier way to control your wheelies is by articulating the clutch lever over here. Essentially what you're going to do is just dump the clutch after revving the engine up a little bit. Now I do want to note right off the bat to be very, very careful while doing this. I'd like to hold myself unliable to anybody hurting themselves. I mean, these are very dangerous machines and you need to use a lot of discretion when you're starting to learn how to wheelie. So the number one thing that you're going to want to do before you even try wheeling is get in the habit of covering your rear brake with your foot. And what that means is in the event of something going wrong during the wheelie and you need to bring the front end of the bike down, you can tap that front brake. And what that's going to do is just shoot the bike down immediately and hopefully keep you from tipping back over. So that's number one thing to remember when you're going to try a wheelie, is to make sure that you're covering that rear brake. Now when it comes to actually getting the bike up in the air, I'm going to suggest that you try it in second or third gear. Don't try it in first gear, because first gear has way too much torque, and you know, if you blip the throttle a little too much, you're just going to loop the bike over. So what I'm going to suggest doing is put it in second or third gear. And just be cruising, preferably lower in the RPM range. You don't need to have the bike screaming to do this if you do it right. You're going to put your weight a little bit further back on the seat than you normally would, but make sure you're still comfortable. And then you're simply just going to pull in the clutch. I always cover the clutch when I'm riding with 2 fingers, and I keep 2 on the bar for situations like this. So what you're going to want to do is just pull in on the clutch, and then you're going to give the engine a little bit of throttle. You're going to rev it up. You don't have to rev it a lot, especially if your bike makes a lot of torque. Most newer dirt bikes have enough torque to do this with ease. So pull in on the clutch to disengage it from the transmission, crack the throttle, release on the clutch. And what that's going to do is it's going to transfer the RPM from the engine to the back tire instantly, and it's going to give your bike enough momentum to pop the front wheel up. So we're going to cover the rear brake. Once we're ready to go, pull in on the clutch, rev the engine up a little bit, and pop it out. You might want to play with it a few times just to get an idea of how much throttle it takes to get the bike to pop up, because it's going to be different from bike to bike depending on what gear you have and whatnot. So I'll do a demonstration of that while I'm riding the bike, so you get an idea of how much throttle is required to do that. Make sure we're covering the rear brake again. Got it in second gear. Fingers on the clutch. Pull in the clutch, rev it up a little bit, and then take off. That time I did it in second gear. You can do it in a higher gear if you plan on staying in that gear longer. Remember, all we're doing is we're just taking these 2 fingers and popping the clutch out to get the front tire to come up. You might just want to practice that a couple of times, you know, without getting too high up on the bike. Just practice it. Bike in the air, and then Now once you've got the actual principle down of clutching up, you're ready to start actually riding the wheelie and running it through the gears. Just upon listening, you probably heard I was running the bike through the gears, and shifting during a wheelie is pretty much the exact same thing as shifting while you're just riding normally. But you want to remember, you don't want to give it too much throttle in between shifts, because then you'd loop the bike. Looping, what I mean by looping is flipping it over from actually wheeling too much per se. So when you're running through the gears, when you're actually riding a wheelie, it's kind of hard to explain how to keep that balance point. You just have to feel what's comfortable. But if you find the perfect balance point, you can essentially ride a wheelie forever. I'm doing what's known as chasing the wheelies, which means that I'm giving it a little more throttle to keep the wheelie up, and eventually I'm running out of gear and I'm going fast. So these are things to keep in mind. You want to be able to wheelie while accelerating as little as possible. So let's go ahead and just show a clutch up one more time. I don't know how well you guys can see my levers because I have them pointed downward. I'm more comfortable with that. But we'll just, do a couple more and you can see how it works. Clutch in.